You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
I'm Toni Heath.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon. Today we're going to be talking about the fourth serial of the 14th season of Doctor Who, The Face of Evil, which consists of 4 episodes that aired from January 1st, 1977, Happy New Year's, to January 22nd, 1977.
True facts!
And I want to give a special shout out to Matt Golden for getting us these episodes.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
You can follow him on Tumblr at mgoldentumbles.tumblr.com. That's Tumbles without an E, because it's Tumblr. And today, we have a special...
Oh my god, please just tell me.
...returning guest person, whose name I will now...
It's Chris Cherry!
I didn't get to say middle name.
Chris, middle name Cherry!
It's me.
Christopher James Cherry.
Oh man, that's it. That's the real one.
Did you question it for a second?
I did for a second, because it sounded foreign coming out of your mouth.
How's it going, Chris?
It's going good. I'm just remembering back to the earlier era when I hosted this podcast.
Those were the days.
Wild times.
Or the day, really.
Good day, though.
That was a good day.
It was okay.
This specific episode was almost going to be a similar thing. We were almost going to record this while you were here, but that didn't happen because we did not get enough ahead.
Time.
Yeah.
I feel like that was always a pie-in-the-sky notion.
But you were here and it was fun.
It was. It was so much fun, you guys, and you'll never know.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit on the last podcast, but yeah.
No, they won't know, though.
They won't feel it the way that we felt it, like in our hearts.
They won't understand. We saw castles of multiple sizes.
True, we did.
And so many gardens.
Lots of rocks.
So many rocks.
And we painted things.
We did. And we saw things that were painted by other people.
It was a good time. Most importantly, I taught a lot of new people shitty boots.
And also, you don't play Secret Hitler with some people.
You don't.
I won't name names, Gary.
This conversation is interesting to no one. Okay.
So, anything else we need to talk about before we jump into the serial?
Yeah.
What?
I'm still listening to the Adventure Zone, and it's still really good. And do you want me to describe where I'm at?
No! What if people listening to this haven't listened to the Adventure Zone? You gonna spoil them?
No, you're right.
No, that's very true.
She's just very obsessed with the Adventure Zone. Chris likes it too. I haven't heard it yet. Go listen to it, I guess.
Just a very touching part, that's all. I literally paused it so that I could record our podcast. And I'm a little annoyed.
And you're barely recording this podcast.
Yeah, super. You do not have all of my attention.
I can confirm that that's how it happens, though. This is how it happened for me. And I think I told you, too. I told Toni, there's gonna come a moment where it kind of just becomes your entire life.
I'm actually really annoyed because I have 3 interviews. I have an interview at work. I've got stuff that I have to actively do. As opposed to just sitting at my computer where I can do things and listen to things. I have stuff that I have to be talking to and interacting with other people Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And it's gonna kill me.
So you can't listen to the podcast.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to do actual work and not listen to the podcast while working. I'm getting frustrated about it.
Do you think there are people who feel that way about this podcast?
No, almost certainly not.
Probably not, no. We don't have as strong a continuing narrative. You just slowly see the destruction of our marriage.
That's long game, though.
Anyway, Doctor Who?
Yeah, sure, why not?
It's pretty good.
Okay, so, The Face of Evil. Well, before I get into my episodes, I want to read you a list of alternate titles for this episode. Titles that was almost going to be called before they landed on The Face of Evil. It was originally to be called The Prime Directive.
That's a good one.
Yeah, but it's taken.
A few months later, it was changed to...
A few minutes later?
Months.
Someone said Prime Directive, and they're like, yes, wait, no.
No, a few months later, when the person who was hired to write the story, another Chris Boucher? Boucher.
I call him the Bouch.
When the Bouch delivered the story, he had changed the title to the Mentor conspiracy.
That sucks.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Then the Bouch and Robert Holmes worked on it a little bit more and retitled it The Tower of Imello.
Imello?
Imello? Imelo.
What is that even a reference to in the...
I don't know. It probably got written out.
It sounds like a kind of ice cream that I don't actually want.
I agree.
So then Hinchcliffe came up with some more stuff for it, and then they rewrote it again, and the official scripts were The Day God Went Mad.
That's great.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
And then they were like, that doesn't follow the pattern of other titles.
Any naming conventions whatsoever.
So they decided on The Face of Evil, which honestly is barely relates to this episode, I feel like.
I mean, there is a pretty big face.
And it's of the evil one.
There's also other faces later. I think it's fine.
It's fine, but it's no The Day God Went Mad.
God, they were cowards. Truly cowards for not putting it out with that title.
Though apparently the Bouch later was like, yeah, that title's probably a little too pretentious.
I mean, you could say that about the cereal, but it works.
But now let's talk about episode 1, which I have titled, I gotta remember how you pronounce this. They pronounce it multiple ways in the serial, I feel like.
You're doing such a great job right now.
I've called You Don't Mess with the Zoannon. That's my title. You Don't Mess with the Zoannon.
Say it a couple more times so that you feel more sure about it, because right now, it feels like you don't believe in it.
You don't mess with the Zoannon.
Louder!
Zoannon!
Yes!
But I think some people just call it Zoann. Like, I feel like it gets pronounced different ways throughout the serial.
Well, God has many names.
So yeah, we get a new companion.
We did not know before this episode started. I think if you listen to the last episode of the podcast, I was like, I think it's Leela? I don't know. It could be. I was right.
Yeah, it's Leela. We've met her. We filmed her once.
Oh yeah, she's very sweet.
When you say that, it sounds creepy. We filmed her.
We did. We work for a TV studio that airs Doctor Who.
We got one-liners, that's all.
Yeah. So she said, hey, you're watching Doctor Who on Retro TV. And that's what we filmed her saying. We've also filmed the 6th Doctor saying it. We filmed the 8th Doctor saying it.
We got a straight-up interview with him, yeah.
Yeah.
More than just liners.
We filmed Perry. We filmed one of the Masters.
I mean, this isn't, like, super important.
No, but I'm just saying.
You're just straight up name dropping right
now.
Yeah,
I am a little bit. It's cool. Jamie Matheson. Anyway, we've met. We've seen her in person, not really knowing who she is. If only we had just watched these episodes slightly sooner, we could have been like, hey, we know who she is now.
We would have been much more excited.
She was still very nice.
Yeah.
But this episode starts like immediately.
Yeah.
I thought maybe I'd accidentally started the second episode.
That is true. It does not start like 10 minutes in. You're just there.
Leela is getting banished because basically she's an atheist.
Pretty much. She blasphemed against their gods, or God.
Zoanna.
And like she's like sentenced to some sort of test unless someone else wants to step in and do it for her. And so her dad does, and I guess dies off screen.
I don't know. It's like cheesy the amount of like screams you hear off screen. And everyone's like, oh no, that's sad. And I'm like giggling.
No, he definitely dies though. I mean, I don't think we ever see him again. Unless he just left.
Bye.
Unless he just went out for a carton of cigarettes and then never came back.
Like a lot of fathers do.
What?
Things got dark.
Heavy cereal.
You said that like it was personal.
No, my dad's nice.
I met your dad. Why are you so insistent on making people think that your dad's not like great?
No, my dad is great. I don't know. I do like enjoy like daddy issues in fiction. It's weird. Like characters who are trying to just like get their dad's attention or something, you know?
Because you had it. And so you want to see how the other laugh. You're vacationing in other people's suffering.
I guess. Like, if you've ever seen the Sam Raimi movie, The Quick and the Dead, where, like, all Leonardo DiCaprio wants is for Gene Hackman to acknowledge him, and that he's his dad, and, like, he doesn't really get that, and it's just, it kills me. Kills me. I enjoy it. Anyway, we're learning a lot about me. Let's talk about Doctor Who. So they're like, we are gonna banish you. You have until sunrise to get the fuck out. Then we see a sandfish. It's really cool looking. It's just like a fish that swims across the ground. And
Sand.
It looks kind of like a cybermat.
It does a
little
bit.
Yeah.
Like a leather cybermat. Like, if you want to get, like, a nicer, more, like, upscale Cybermat.
You get a skin for your Cybermat. Like a protector.
Got a nice case.
Yeah. And it basically swims up to the TARDIS. The TARDIS arrives, and the Doctor proceeds to talk to the camera.
He has no one, so he's just talking to himself. He's talking to himself as if he had a companion. One wonders how long he's been doing this.
I read online is like, he broke the fourth wall. And I'm like, no, he didn't. He was just talking to himself in the direction of the camera.
Stares like that all the time. That is not in any way, like, out of character for him to just be staring into space.
And he's just rambling about how this isn't Hyde Park, and he'll have to put a knot in his hanky to remember something, and he pulls out his hanky, and it already has a knot in it, and he's like, I wonder what that was about.
He clearly needs somebody.
Here's the thing, though. Apparently, the last serial didn't have any companion, and Tom Baker was like, that's fine. I can carry this show. I don't need a companion.
Yeah, no, that was his thing. He didn't necessarily pitch the plot of Deadly Assassin, but I think he wanted to do Deadly Assassin. Like, he wanted a serial where he didn't have a companion to prove that he could.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it was more than just him wanting one serial, though. I think he just wanted to keep just doing it himself.
No, yeah, he thought it was but that was like a proof of concept for him. Like, no, he was like, I can do this. We don't actually need another person. I'm just that good.
I think Philip Hinchcliffe was like, no, you need, like, someone to talk to. He's like, I can talk to myself. And that's what he's doing here. So.
And it only kind of plays.
It definitely plays in like someone find this man a friend immediately.
And he finds one.
He does.
Leela is being hunted by other tribe members, I guess. They have crossbows.
You seem offended by this?
Well, I don't know, because I initially thought that it was like some sort of primitive tribe, but then they had like really fancy looking crossbows, like gun crossbows.
And you were like, that's too fancy. And then it was like, guess what? That all tracks.
But also, like, I think, like, there's nothing wrong with crossbows. I mean, they had crossbows a long time ago.
Yeah, but not like
fancy.
Yeah, not that. Yeah, like this is like primitive. They got like loincloths and shit.
Maybe that was just the look that season.
Season 14.
Yes, they live in like a jungle. It's hot as fuck. They're like, this is a good aesthetic. We're gonna keep with it.
I guess. But I mean, I think that just it quickly tells you that this isn't Earth. That there's something slightly askew here.
It makes more sense for them to have a crossbow than for Chewbacca to have a crossbow. Why does Chewbacca have a crossbow? It doesn't even work like a crossbow. It's just a gun with weird bits on the side. What I'm saying is it doesn't function like a crossbow. It's just a laser gun.
It just has the aesthetics of a crossbow.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if, like, a laser bolt, like, you could see it, like, charge up, like, one, like pop into the slot, and then, like, some sort of, like, force, just shoots it out, and, like, it's sort of anti-grav crossbow, like, mimicking thing. But no, it's just the aesthetic.
I mean, it's like those lighters that look like guns. But it's a gun that looks like a crossbow. So they're shooting those crossbows at each other.
Because someone's been sent out to get her, because it's not enough that she's been banished. She has to be destroyed.
So why didn't they just order her to be executed?
Well, because they did it in secret.
I mean, they executed her dad.
Well, exactly, so they can't execute another person. That's the rules. Like, the religious leader is breaking the rules by sending someone out to kill her.
And then she kills one of them.
Straight up murders people very soon into the serial. And it's a really great introduction. This is your new person. She's just murdering people.
And straight up denying God.
Denying God and murdering people.
It's like you wanted a companion. She almost gets an arrow, but the guy that's going to shoot her gets an arrow in his back, and another guy comes out. Thomas kind of has the hots for Leela.
It's really low-key.
I don't think she particularly cares either.
He's like, come back with me and I'll take care of you. And she's basically like, nah, I don't really care.
I'm good. I can take care of myself.
Because he's the guy who does this. There's a lot about like the kind of tribal politics here that's very like rote Doctor Who plotting.
Yeah, he fits a certain type.
Which I think is important, which again, I think is a thing that they're perhaps doing on purpose because they're going to subvert a lot of things.
And he also warns her about, because she's going to leave the borders, and he warns her, he basically like, hey, don't forget there's those phantoms outside the border, which are evil and bad. And I was like, we start to hear like the growling and stuff of the monster. Well, first she tells Thomas to be careful about the tribe's guy, the religious leader, because he's tricksy.
Baldy.
Baldy?
Yeah, he's bald.
Oh, I thought that was his name.
Yeah, it's really on the nose.
Their names are like slightly real names, like Earth names, but just like it's like.
I mean, they're real names that have become like Help me say a word, man.
Man.
Mythologized.
Sure, because there's like Thomas, but spelled differently, and there's Caleb, but Calib, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's sort of the thing that George R.R. Martin does in Game of Thrones, where everyone has an almost normal name, but not quite. He's like, it's not Edward Stark, it's Eddard Stark, and it's not Catelyn, it's Catelyn, and everything's just sort of almost normal, but not quite. It's that same thing.
So she goes off on her own, and the doctor is also wandering through the woods whistling, and they both hear the creature growling. And it was at this point I turned to Tony. I was like, it's either going to be a really cool design or they're invisible. And I was right. They were invisible.
The actual reveal of what they look like is great, though, but we'll get there.
But they bump into each other, and she thinks that the doctor is the evil one.
Their actual first meeting is really well directed, because they do that thing where she literally trips and falls and like sees the scarf and looks up, and it's like, there's the doctor.
It's really good. Also, I like when you meet the companion meets the doctor and is like not super impressed, yeah, or is like, you're the worst, and like she literally calls him the evil one. So I feel like that's as extreme as you can get, and he's probably not a good guy.
Yeah, I really like in the scene where he's like, I'm not evil, and like offers her a jelly baby, and she's like, it's true, they said the evil one eats babies.
So good.
Yeah, this is a really good script.
It is. Like, the dialogue is
quippy.
so quippy and witty and funny. And other synonyms.
There's a lot of really kind of, like, quippy, smart dialogue jokes. But then there's also the bit that, like, happens just now where the doctor's like, now tread carefully, and then falls over.
That is my favorite.
A lot of cleverness and a lot of undercutting of cleverness. Both very good.
Because he set up a clock that will distract the Phantom, because it apparently is attracted to noise, and they're going to go in a different direction as the clock's ticking and stuff. That's when he promptly falls down. But then it still works, though, because then the clock gets smashed, and that's actually a really cool effect.
Yeah.
It looks like something getting smashed, and there's nothing there to smash it. Then there's a scene where Thomas goes back to camp and talks to another guy, whose name I don't remember, but I'm sure it's in my notes later. The bearded guy.
Who looks just like Chuck Norris. They're all dressed like Chuck Norris, but he looks like Chuck Norris. It's like one of those things, like, you ever hear the news story that's like, this guy goes to, like, a lookalike convention and, like, gets second place as himself or whatever, you know? It's like Chuck Norris went to a Chuck Norris lookalike convention, but then won. Like, they all look like, everything about the aesthetic of this tribe feels kind of like a Predator movie.
I've only seen trailers and clips of Predator, so.
Yeah, I've never.
But sure.
I'm right.
I thought they wore a lot of camo.
And like, but there's also like a lot of leathery kind of stuff too. There's a kind of, in the dudes' outfits, there's a very kind of macho, like, aesthetic, which is really funny because all the dudes are very skinny.
They're also very naked.
I mean, that's how your loincloth situation generally works.
I'm saying, I was surprised by how naked they were.
You hadn't seen pictures of Leela before?
Yeah. I was surprised that the men were also that naked.
That's fair. Equal opportunity nudity.
Yeah.
So back to Leela and the doctor. They're going around and sort of expositioning a bit. And she says that there's phantoms and that they are phantoms and that they never cross the border. So they're fine as long as they're in one place. But she's also supposed to leave that place. But the doctor's like, there must be a fence. So let's find that fence.
Spoiler alert, there is a fence.
And then back at the tribe, we see the religious leader. I'm going to look it up. You call him Baldy, but he has an actual name.
Baldy beard guy.
No, he doesn't have a beard.
He has a beard.
I don't think so. Beardy guy has a beard.
Oh my god. This is a riveting fucking podcast.
Neva. His name is Neva.
And he 100% has a beard.
I don't think he has a beard.
He is rocking the cue ball beard combo.
Yeah, he definitely has a beard.
Does he? Well, he doesn't have a very
Not like
big
a
beard.
big bushy beard.
He has more of a beard than Chuck Norris does.
Does he? I remember him being clean shaven. And I watched this yesterday.
His head is clean shaven.
Oh, he has a beard.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he does have a beard. Okay.
Our podcast is supposed to be funny.
Funny or interesting, either.
What's this one?
A mess.
So, Neva, that's his name. That's the religious leader. Neva is talking to the god, and it's talking back to him, and it's a very electronic voice that basically says, stop Leela and the doctor. But also sounds a lot like the doctor.
You said that right at the very beginning. You're like, is that Tom Baker?
Because it's Tom Baker.
Because it is. Because it's Tom Baker.
I mean, it sounds very obviously like Tom Baker.
I mean, I don't recognize voices. I recognize voices about as much as I recognize faces.
Which has been previously established, is none.
It was interesting watching this again. I was always wondering as the episode was going on, like, wait, are they telegraphing the twists too much? Because I didn't remember, like, catching on to things the first time, but, like, watching it again, I'm thinking, like, oh, are they telegraphing twists too much? And then they would reveal something much earlier than I thought they did. They're actually really good about gradually giving away the layers of what's going on. Like, kind of parceling out the mystery of the thing that's happened here. Because this is definitely one of those stories where the narrative of it is just unraveling the situation that you're in.
Even if you do sort of catch on that, like, the evil one sounds like the doctor.
You're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Is he going, like, back in the past and going to do something?
Right, because time travel could be involved. Like, is this the doctor gone bad? Is this, what's his face? The Valeyard.
The
Valeyard, yeah.
Yeah. Also, but Leela sort of gives a little bit more explanation about Zoannon.
Just say it, man. What have I told you? Pick something.
I keep wanting to call him Zohan, so
that's your problem. That's because you came up with that bad joke.
That's because you literally have Zohan written in your notes multiple times.
That's what I heard multiple times to begin with until I saw it spelled in the credits. So Zoannon is a god who was captured by the evil one, and Leela spoke against him, and that's why she's been cast out. That's what she tells the doctor. I mean, later it turns out like they're the same dude, right? Zoannon and the evil one.
Well, sort of, yeah. It's complicated. We'll get there. Will we get there?
We will get there.
Will we?
So there's a whole thing. So the whole tribe is like going to war against the Tesh, right?
Yes. There are two different tribes here.
The Sevatim and the Tesh.
And the Tesh, yeah.
And they're waiting for the right time. There's a lot of like...
There's going to be a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
The fence.
Well, because there's a wall and there's a fence, and that's confusing. There is a wall that is separating them from another area of the planet that is impenetrable. It is through space magic. It is impenetrable. But they know that it's going to open. I think they've heard from Zoannon or whatever that it is going to open at a certain point. But some people think that this is a trap. And I think Leela was one of the people who thought it was a trap and that attacking and going through the wall was a bad idea.
Plus, like, there's the whole thing about, like, the hole is going to appear, so it's like, but it's only going to be at a certain time. So there's a lot of, like, waiting and not doing things right away, which is making the leader very upset because he wants food. Like, there's, like, this whole thing about food, and he just seems very hangry. Like, he's like, let's do it now because I'm hungry. You're just staring at me like you have no idea what I'm talking about. But you're the one who called him hangry when we watched it.
He does seem angry. I don't fucking remember. I don't know what you're talking about. I vaguely remember calling him angry, but I don't remember this scene at all.
I think the, like, religious guy is, like, postponing a feast because of, like, timing reasons. There's a lot of Neva, like, shuffling things around for, like, timing reasons. And it, like, pisses everybody off. But then Thomas comes in and tells the leader that Neva sent men to kill Leela, and
he's not having it. He's not hearing about that.
He's like, we don't have time to deal with all this petty shit. We got a war to get to. So they go off to war. So there's also the Leela and the doctor, like, going through the woods. She hears something and goes and hides, and the doctor, I'm pretty sure, makes a hide and seek joke. And then she's like, no, there's, like, I heard something. There's people after me. And he's like, I'm sure there's no one after you. And then 3 arrows just, like, cling right into the tree in front of him. He's like, well, maybe there is.
This is like one of the first of many instances of this serial having the doctor be wrong. This whole serial is just The Doctor is Wrong, the movie.
I love it.
That's why it's one of my favorites. Like, spoiler alert for Final Thoughts, this is one of my favorite serials. But one of the things I like about it, for, like, reasons that we'll get into, is that, yeah, it's a cavalcade of the Doctor making assumptions and, like, doing things and just, like, being wrong the entire time about a thing that was ultimately his fault.
So the hunters are coming up, and the Doctor kind of tells Leela, leave, I'll deal with them. They think he's the evil one, and he's
Because
like,
of his face.
he full on just leans into it. Like, they're warding off evil with a gesture, which this is like our first hint that's a plot point that's coming up later. He's like, that was the same gesture as some sort of spacesuit check.
It's how you would check the valves on a particular type of spacesuit. And
Yeah.
how would you know that?
But also, like, this bit that's about to happen was not in the script. The Doctor was supposed to threaten them with a knife. Tom Baker on the day was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And changed it to him threatening them with a jelly baby.
That's so much better. I'm so glad he did that.
It's such a good joke.
Apparently, the producer was not very happy about it.
Really?
Hinchcliffe, yeah. He did not care for it. But it's great.
Oh my god. I mean, I love Phil Hinchcliffe, but he was wrong. Oh, it's one of my favorite lines in the entire show. It's so good. He's just like, stand back or I'll kill him with this deadly jelly baby.
And they don't know. They'll have to be like, oh shit, I don't know what that does, but I don't want to find out.
Well, no, one of them's like, well, kill him then. And the Doctor's like, I don't take orders, and then eats the jelly baby.
Don't wanna.
Nice save.
So they take him into the town, into the tribe area, using his scarf as a blindfold. That's some clever thinking there. And then he gets to talk his case to the leader, while Leela follows along and sneaks back in as well. Oh, and then Neva is like trying to disprove or prove that he's the evil one or something. Disprove or prove, I don't remember which.
Well, Neva wants to prove he's the evil one.
Right. So he starts violently waving this piece of machinery around him like it's some sort of like ritual thing.
It looks like kind of like a piece of a vacuum cleaner.
And the Doctor basically says it is as much. It's just some sort of random piece of machinery, right?
But he also says that it's actually very dangerous and you should stop doing that.
Oh, right. He's like, it could blow up this entire village if you fuck up. But that doesn't stop Neva.
At this point, is Neva wearing his amazing, like, suit of nonsense?
Well, he has two different suits of nonsense, because at some point he's wearing one and he takes it off for another one. One of them has, like, the helmet in it. But he has two different ridiculous outfits.
He's got the one with the helmet on the back, but he also has the one that has the glove hat. Is a hat made out of, like, a Nintendo Power glove.
And he's just, like, he's wearing this suit that's just, like, made of all of these pieces of technology kind of strung together.
It looks like if someone was making a post-apocalyptic movie today, but that was nostalgic about the 80s.
Yeah.
Like a Turbo Kid situation or something. It's glorious. I'm sure there's cosplayers of that, right? I want
Absolutely.
to see them.
There have to be. It's a good look.
So they're like, you must be the evil one. Would you pretty please...
We should mention, by the way, Neva is, like, just the biggest ham
Oh, for sure.
ever.
No, he's so good.
Yeah, he is fully committed to this part.
And again, what I love about, because this is a very deconstructive Doctor Who serial. Like, I'd argue, like, it's probably one of the first serials, I think, that is really interested in kind of taking apart the Doctor as a character and, like, the show in general, as well as making a statement about religion, but also, like, kind of with the show. So what's interesting, I think, with Neva as a character is that he's very much a stock Doctor Who type, like, the kind of religious leader that hungers for power and is communicating with something that he thinks is a god or whatever, and he's played by this actor that is totally hamming it up. But he gets, like, an arc. The writing of the character rises to the performance, and he kind of, like, meets the material in a very interesting way, where, like, at the end of the serial, he is, like, fully committed to playing this thing, and it's really good.
It's very interesting, the shift that happens. Yeah, I'm trying to think that. I don't think there has been anything that's sort of been this deconstructive like this. Because he specifically reminds me of the one guy in that first Doctor serial, the one where Barbara becomes a god, basically.
Aztecs.
Yeah, yeah. So that he's basically that same sort of character from that serial. But that guy just stays evil and dies at the end or something, right? Actually, no, he doesn't die. They just go through with the rituals.
Or he's like the guy in Mask of Mandragora or whatever, or a half a dozen other cereals.
But the leader of the people is basically like, okay, so you are the evil one, so please, would you pretty please release our god, Zoannon? And the doctor's like, I can't, I don't have him. And then they're like, all right, fine, then we'll just kill you.
I just want to point out, I think at some point during this conversation, the doctor says that he's not a god and that he's just a traveler, which is a thing that we just saw 13 say in a trailer, and I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
This episode will have gone out by the time the first episode is aired, but we haven't seen it yet here in the past.
We don't know what it's going to be like. I have an idea.
I'm assuming it's good.
I think so. I think so.
I hope so.
I've heard like some early reviews. I think it's going to be good.
We'll probably talk about it on the next podcast.
Yeah.
You won't be there, haha.
We'll talk about it.
Sucks to be you, Chris.
If only there was some other way for me to talk to you about Doctor Who.
But this is the only time we talk.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're going to do a public execution, basically. This weird thing's going to happen soon.
Which is what Neva wants. Except then he's like, wait. Because they're like getting ready to do it. And he was like, wait, stop. We got to do this right. We got to be all showy about it. So hang up, does he want to do it in front of their, warriors? Is that the deal? To, inspire them?
Well, they're going to do an execution.
But
they have to do a litany first. And they're, gonging on a spaceship.
Yeah, they got, a big spaceship panel, a big metal panel with, some numbers on it. And they're using it as, a gong.
It actually says Survey Team 7 or something like that.
6. It says Survey Team 6. Another clue.
And then, basically, the doctor's like, there's probably been previous space visitors here because of all of this tech and shit that's around.
I don't know if someone has told him the name of the tribe, but if he hasn't put it together, that's not that smart. Which, my favorite thing about this is because Leela doesn't have a last name, anytime that in sort of promotional materials or whatever, or, anything about Leela, they can't give her a full name, but they have to distinguish this specific Leela is who they're talking about. So they always refer to her as Leela the Sevateem, like it's a real thing. But, the name is, a dumb joke, kind of.
I like Sevateem, though.
Yeah, it sounds legit.
Basically, while they're doing this litany, this sort of prayer thing, this is a good opportunity for Leela to sort of come in and save the doctor. Which she actually does that a lot, this serial. That's another good thing. She saves the doctor multiple times.
One thing about this serial that makes it feel a lot like a New Who episode for me, like a New Who companion introduction, is that a lot of New Who companion introductions are very much built around establishing why this person is a good companion. So they go out of the way to show this person being super capable and show why this person has motivation to leave their home or whatever, that sort of thing. And so we run around and see them, which feels very much, sometimes we see that in Classic Who.
But sometimes it's oops, you were in the TARDIS.
Exactly. Or even if they're introduced, there's not a lot of time spent on establishing them as someone that is there's a sense of we have to prove this person worthy almost.
Because Jamie just sort of comes onto the TARDIS and I don't really know who he is as a character. I mean, now he's one of my favorites, but in that Highlanders serial, he was just kind of there most of the time. He didn't really do a whole lot to establish himself as a companion.
Whereas with this one, it's it feels like part of it is going out of its way to have her just be saving him and kind of build her up as a character in a very specific and pointed way.
But when she's saving the doctor, she takes out a guard with this thorn thing. Is that what it was?
A Janus thorn.
Which comically kills you. You are frozen in the position you were in when you got stabbed with it. And you're just dead.
It's kind of horrifying, though.
A little bit. But it reminded...
A little.
Because here's the thing. It reminded me of this Neil Simon movie. It was a parody of Casablanca and the Maltese Falcon and all that. It's a combination of all of them. But anyone who died in that movie, when they died, they were just frozen in the position they died in, comedically. So I couldn't help but think of that. So.
Oh, well, without that in your brain, it's just a little frightening. She's just I murdered that guy, and the doctor's that seemed unnecessary.
Well, there's one that, where a guy gets Janus thorned later, as, he's going out a window, and he gets, stuck in the window, and she's, moving his body in the window? His lifeless but stiff dead body And that is very unsettling.
Yeah, but the doctor just straight up says, don't do that.
And she just gets this look on her face like, but I want to kill people. But Dad, all the other kids get to kill people.
Yeah, because she kills 2 guards on the way out. But they get out and they run off. They go to a mountain that is basically Mount Rushmore, but with only one face. And that face is of the evil one, who is Tom Baker.
We've said before how I'm not great at faces. Did that look like him?
Yeah.
Enough that you get that it's him, yeah.
All right.
He's got those big bug eyes.
I did not think it looked like him at all, but...
It looks kind of like a Simpsons rendering of him.
Well, he had some issues with it too, so...
It's not a good look. But to be fair, though, he is supposed to be evil there. But yeah, no, it's very clearly him.
Okay.
And this is just a great cliffhanger.
Because you're like, what the fuck? Because it's still, at this point, you don't know what the deal is. Is it time travel, or...
Has he already been there before? Is he going to go back, like, in this episode?
Maybe it's just a situation like with the first Doctor, where the guy just happens to look like the Doctor.
Yeah.
Or the enemy of the world.
That just happens sometimes.
Yeah, but like, no, in this case, like, he has been there before. Which is, again, that's a really cool cliffhanger, because that's another thing that just, up to this point, we've never done. We don't do that much now. Like, the idea of, like, coming back to a place the Doctor was, like, where the Doctor did a thing a long time ago, and this is what happened afterwards. Yeah, it's a really unexplored idea. And so the fact that we're just kind of, like, popping up here. And it's kind of funny, though, because, like, this is a trope that, like, Stephen Moffat, for good or ill, overused a bit, where, like, it was a thing of, like, oh, it turns out the weird thing was actually the Doctor. But it's brand new here. I don't know what it was like to watch this serial the first time, but, like, that's, like, at the time, just, like, a legitimately cool new twist.
Okay, I'm thinking, this is actually the second time that the 4th Doctor has played an evil Doctor. Because he also did it in the one with Sarah Jane, where, like, not the Brigadier character and all that. There was an evil Doctor in that.
Oh, yeah.
So the first Doctor had it at least twice. Because there was that one that had the double that looked nothing like him. 2 had the enemy of the world. Did 3 ever have an evil Doctor?
No. He just had Drag Doctor.
It's a little bit of a bummer that we never got to see 3 play a baddie.
No, he had the world in which everyone else was evil.
Everyone but him. That says so much about the 3rd Doctor, I feel like.
It really does.
But anyway, that's the end of episode 1. We are now into episode 2, which I've called Beyond the Wall. So yeah, the Ziva.
Neva?
Ziva sounds like a drink.
Go on.
Just a second before we get too far. I kind of misrepresented myself at one point. You said Ziva sounds like a drink, and my brain thought that's the name of a character on NCIS. But I didn't want to out myself as someone who's seen an episode of NCIS, but that was a lie. I've seen an episode of NCIS, and there's a character named Ziva. And I'm sorry that I lied to the American public about that.
There's nothing wrong with watching NCIS.
Yes, there is.
It's got Mark Harmon, right? I only know that because of The Good Place.
Guys, The Good Place is back. We could also talk about that.
Everything is Bonzer, you guys. Such a good show.
Unlike some others I could mention.
Like this podcast. Focus! Focus!
What are you talking to me for?
He's talking to himself, like the Doctor at the beginning of the serial.
I looked right into the camera and I said, focus! Because you can see your own reflection in the lens. So it's like you're talking to yourself. So, this is what happens when we switch chairs back.
Do we need to switch again?
No. So, yeah, the Nevo really wants to push this, let's go fight in the hole. The leader's like, if we fail, I'm gonna kill you. So, let's hope this goes well.
Or not. Who knows? Either way, I'm cool. You're dead, but I'm fine.
So they all start to head out to go do a war. And Doctor and Leela sneak back into Neva's little hut to examine his equipment and stuff. So what did they gather from the mountain? Just that's his face? And then they're like, okay, let's leave?
I think he decides definitively that he has been there before.
Okay. And he's gonna go get some intel?
And, like, he's starting... Like, I don't know how much he's remembered from his last, like, trip here. But, like, he now knows... He's pretty certain that he has been here before.
So they go to Neva's hut. They're about to go in, but Neva's mid phone call with Zoanne, girl of the 21st century.
That's a solid reference.
I have to hit those Disney Channel original movies for you to get my references. But he gets called away and leaves, so they get in there. Oh, that's also when he puts on that great glove hat. The doctor really likes the hat, too.
The other hat, his special talking to Zoannon hat, really makes him look like a rooster. It's just because it's like this helmet, and it's got this red loop, like, kind of coiled cable on top of it that looks like that thing that roosters have. You know the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, the waddle?
Is that what it's called?
Is that 100%? Are you being serious?
Yeah. Are you just pulling out rooster knowledge?
Yeah, it's called a waddle.
Well, waddle you know. I'm so glad that I can't see Toni because I know she's making a mean face at me.
Nah, she's smiling. She likes when you do it.
That's true. It only pisses me off when Joe does it.
Toni never gets a second cup of coffee at home.
What?
I got that one.
That's a reference to both Airplane and a coffee commercial that Airplane was spoofing.
Okie doke.
Okay, so they go in and the doctor's like, the thing is, he was definitely thought he was talking to a god, so he's not just lying.
He hasn't
he was
knowingly
expecting an
betrayed
answer.
anybody.
He was in there trying to talk to Zoannon and was expecting an answer. So clearly he thinks that's a real thing. So the doctor finds the communicator and is trying to, like, use it. But it says, dead as a Dalek, as he says.
Also, like, dead as a Dalek is another, I don't know, I feel like is also just a nice little moment of the writers kind of, like, playing their cards that, like, yeah, we're deconstructing stuff. We know what we're talking about. We know our show.
Although that is actually something that I read about The Deadly Assassin, is that people didn't like The Deadly Assassin because it seemed like the writers didn't know the show. They really didn't like the way the Time Lords were presented in that serial.
Because they weren't regenerating, or because
that and they just seemed like humans and not like they had been previously portrayed.
They're definitely a lot less, like, godlike.
That makes sense to me, though.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Like, if you're there in their house, they're less impressive.
It's just a smarter choice. And, like, to, like, kind of portray the Time Lords as kind of the stultifying bureaucracy. It's a good take.
And I do know that, like, Philip Hinchcliffe himself, I've seen an interview, he's like, yeah, I boned up on my Doctor Who stuff, but, like, I don't know everything. I didn't watch it all.
Not like we have at this point.
Yeah, we've watched more than him. Take that, Philip Hinchcliffe. No, he's cool. I like watching interviews with him.
That's fine.
He seems to be like, I didn't mean for it to get so dark. It's fine, though, right? I don't think it's that bad. That's like 90% of his interviews. But yeah, then a voice does call in. And,
sounds like Tom Baker.
And, the voice on the other end says, at last we are here. And the doctor's like, who is? And he's like, we are. And I was like, knew it! It's the doctor! It is the doctor!
But some things, not right.
So it's still at this point that I'm like, this could be like the future doctor or even a past doctor that something bad's happened to. But it's something else entirely. But we'll get there.
I think this episode of the podcast is breaking a record for the amount of times that we say, but we'll get there.
Probably. But we'll get there. The wall, though, is a time barrier, and it is, in fact, a trap. And they walk right into a trap.
They sure do.
The tribe of 17.
By the way, this, like, 100% breaks Diva, like, as a person.
It sure does. Bunch of them die. Caleb got out, though. Caleb, that's the dude with the beard. Caleb with an eye.
That's Chuck Norris, right?
Yeah, that's Chuck Norris.
And there's also the other leader guy who looks like Luke in The Last Jedi.
Does he die in the... Because I don't think the leader's here anymore. Did he die in the trap?
I don't remember if he dies now or later, but he does die eventually.
Because right now, I think it's primarily Neva, Caleb, and Thomas. I mean, of course, Leela. Leela's kind of a Smurfette here.
A bit.
I think there are other women, but there are none that talk. But yeah, Caleb comes back and runs into the doctor and Leela and says, that went to shit, you guys. And Leela's like, mad at him. Like, well, why are you here? Why weren't you with them?
Like, why aren't you dead? Yeah.
And he's like, because I got the fuck out of there.
Yeah, no, Leela's hardcore.
And then they're like asking Caleb for help in convincing the rest of the tribe that the doctor is not evil. Because he's kind of like on the same side as Leela in the, I don't buy into all this bullshit. But he also sort of is like, for Leela, it's like, this isn't the truth. But for Caleb, it's more like, it's not the truth, but also I'm more worried about my own self-interests. Mm-hmm. Like, if I will pretend to believe it to promote my own sort of agenda. Because he wants to take over the tribe, we will learn. Because then he stabs Leela with one of the thorns, the Janus thorn. And then Thomas comes in, and he's super pissed because he likes Leela. And then everybody's sort of like in a little standoff. Doctor threatens everyone with a crossbow to like calm the situation down.
Yeah, I think, is this the point where he threatens to break someone's nose?
That's possible. They're also like, you don't know how to use that thing, the crossbow or whatever. And he's like, I'm sure I can do something at this close of a range. Just all it takes is the flick of the wrist, is what he says.
Like, yeah, because he is pissed now.
Yeah, because they just killed Leela, basically.
I don't know if it's just the way that some people, especially like on Tumblr or whatever, people talk about 4. Because I think, like, because of the way that the era was sort of written, it's a less kind of character-focused and sort of it's kind of plotting with its companions. And I think because of that, I think 4 sometimes gets characterized as someone who, like, maybe doesn't care about his companions as much. But, like, that is flat out not true. He gets really angry if you fuck with his people.
Also, he calls Sarah Jane his best friend.
Best friend!
His best friend! Like, and, like, he is already, like, pack bonding with this person.
And then he proceeds to save the fuck out of her life. So, yeah, I don't know what those people are talking about.
Basically, there's a real convenient machine.
Yeah, it's so convenient.
It's not the most convenient thing that happens in this serial, but it's up there.
It's like, I can use this machine to make an antidote. And he does. That's it. Now she's fine.
And I don't remember the context for this, but it's in my notes, so I want to say it. But the doctor says, this line I like, which he says, knowing the answers is easy. Asking the right questions is hard.
Yeah. And I think there's an idea, there's a thematic idea happening here of like these people have sort of thrown out their technology for religion, and so they think things that are incurable that aren't. Like, so the idea that like these people have been dying because of Janus thorns that are like incurable, but they had the cure like right there. They just didn't know what it looked like. So there's kind of a thematic idea going there. But it is also just hella convenient.
It's something that I buy, though, because, yeah, they've previously shown that there's a bunch of techno shit hanging around. It's, like I said, it's not as convenient as something we're going to get to, but we'll get there. So, but then the tribe all basically show up and pull their crossbows on the doctor. And the doctor pulls the, what's that over there? Trick. And they all look around, and then he just casually drapes himself on, like, a throne. Like, they're still, like, definitely got him surrounded.
Yeah.
But he, like, just
But he's gonna be dramatic about it.
Yeah, he takes control of the room anyhow. But, yeah, that's when the test happens. The doctor is still trying to be like, I'm not the evil one. And so they're going to do this whole, I don't know, this whole thing, this whole test. Also, Caleb is now sort of saying that he's not the evil one, but again, for his own political reasons.
He's saying he's not the evil one, which means Neva's a liar.
So make me your head dude.
So stop listening to Neva and start listening to me the most.
And, like, they're sort of arguing back and forth while the doctor is keeping score, like with tennis terms, like 15 love and all that. It's really funny. But ultimately the doctor loses. No matter who wins, the doctor loses. So yeah, that's when they do this whole, I don't know, the evil one has to be a god, so let's kill the doctor?
But then there's some debate about whether or not the evil one can be killed. There's kind of like a weird little theological debate that's happening. Because like some prophecies say that the evil one can be killed, and it's this whole thing. Which I still don't know exactly what the test was supposed to determine.
Me either?
If he was immortal?
It didn't make a whole lot of sense.
It seems sort of like a kind of standard trial by combat type situation, or like where, and if you survive, it means that the gods are smiling upon you type thing, I guess.
Or he is a god.
Well, it was very like the Monty Python witch bit.
Like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't?
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't sure if that was the case, because the way it works is that he's on like a dunking booth, basically. Except in the like booth, instead of fun, playful water, it's a whole bunch of those things that kill you.
Yeah, I don't understand much of what's happening in this scene exactly. I understand the test. I just don't understand the point of the test. What exactly it's supposed to be.
How it proves that he's not the evil one.
The evil one famously bad at crossbows.
That might be it.
I think that is the main point, is that the evil one was just very much not good at them. Because the last time that the doctor was there, he was really bad at crossbows. But in the interim, he took a class.
That's what he trained on for a year.
So they show him the sandfish from the beginning.
And he's like, well, that's kind of cute.
And they're like, nah, it'll eat the shit out of you. The doctor chucks it on, somehow throws it on a guy at one point, too.
It just latches onto his, like, sleeve or something, and the guy runs off.
And Leela is saying, like, the rope gets thinner the more it goes up, but it also moves faster. And then they, like, chastise her for, like, giving him hints. But what it is he's gonna be on this, like, this stage that's gonna slowly open as a rock drops that's tied to a rope. The rope opens the trap that he's standing on. As the floor opens beneath him, there is a shit ton of those sand fishes.
Why did it have to be sandfishes?
And he will have a crossbow to shoot the rope, stop the doors from opening, basically.
To catch the spider that swallowed the fly.
But the rope gets thinner the further down it goes, so that's why she was like, wait till it's thin enough that you can shoot it with the crossbow. But also, it's going to be hard to do because the doors will be opening faster, basically. But also, he only gets one shot, like Eminem. And he does it.
Do you got any more Eminem jokes?
No, I don't.
Let's hear your, 5 minutes on Eminem that you got. Something about Mom Spaghetti? Come on.
Well, he had to do a similar test, and it proved that he was a rap god.
There, you got that. All right, we've exhausted knowledge.
I'm dancing.
I'm ready to move on from this now.
Also, there was a little bit where, Leela gets out of her restraints, but it doesn't really do anything. So, because they just pull crossbows on her.
Except now you know she's the type of person who can get out of her restraints, which would make her a good companion.
The doctor shoots the rope, gets down, and then is like, yeah, I'm real great at this. I learned it from a dude. I think his name was William Tell. Fucking name dropper.
Is that okay, this is my turn to be, you guys and not know things. That's not a real person, right?
William Tell?
Oh boy, I sure would like to have an answer for you ready to go, but now that you've asked, I'm not sure.
He had a whole fucking overture.
I thought that was a fake person, like Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan's real.
Or Johnny Appleseed.
They're both real.
They're both real. No, I think you're right. It's a folk hero.
I think William Tell is a fake person. So I don't know who the doctor meant.
According to legend.
Exactly, legend. He's not real.
Yeah, but, legends come from somewhere.
There could have been a guy named Billy Tell who is pretty good at shooting things.
He was probably just, mostly, a little bit better than okay. And it all just got blown out of proportion.
He liked to tell stories. That's where he got his name. William, after William Shakespeare.
God damn it.
I mean, maybe it's just a different, a real guy named William Tell, but not the same guy.
Anyway.
He just happened to be really good at crossbows.
Just a different William Tell who happened to be the best at crossbows.
Actually, it's debatable. It's not sure if it's real or not. It could be based on someone real, but they're not sure.
Anyway.
According to Wikipedia, my quick glimpse through. Listen, Peabody and Sherman met him once.
So he's gotta be real.
He's gotta be real. So the doctor goes to Neva. He hears in from Zoannon, who says that they're gonna let some of their pets out. Some of their deadly, invisible pets. The Phantoms. Also, at this point, there's more than one voice. It's not just Tom Baker anymore. There's another voice that is part of Zoannon. So everyone gets ready for the Phantom Invasion.
That would be a good title.
It would. Ooh, or The Phantom Menace.
No.
And then that's when he also figures out the 7-team survey team thing.
This was another instance of me being, have they kind of given us too many clues too early? Oh, no, wait, they say survey team in episode 2. Never mind.
Oh, and there's this great bit of dialogue. Caleb is there chatting with Leela and everybody and being kind of a dick. Leela's yelling at him or whatever, and then Caleb's like, I don't expect you to like me. And then she's like, then you won't be disappointed. And I was like, that is some great dialogue. This whole serial is just full of great lines like that.
It really is. It's a very, just, on a pure fucking, on every level, this script is great.
The doctor sets up something to keep the Phantoms back. Just some sort of fiddling with technology thing. But also, I think Leela's nothing can get in the barrier, through the barrier. But how are we getting Zoannon's voice? How are we hearing that? How's that getting here?
Yeah, and that's another one of those, yeah, it's a companion.
So the doctor goes to talk to Neva about it, but he's like super zoned.
He's broken.
Because he just keeps saying stuff and he's just like, yes, master, or whatever. That's all he'll say. It doesn't matter what is asked of him. But then the doctor pretends to be the Zoannon and gets an answer that he's looking for.
Which is, where does he talk to God? And it has to be in that room.
And I guess he sort of figures out that it's connected to
his little helmet.
And that it's coming from the mountain.
Yes.
The Phantoms arrive. One of the tribesmen gets attacked, so one of the tribesmen sets off the gong again, starts banging the gong, which is a terrible idea. And everyone yells at him like, stop it, that's just going to lead him here. The Doctor and Leela get to the mountain and is sort of giving his Yelp review of the mountain. I think he has a problem with how big the nose is.
And Leela suggests that that's where the entrance is.
Like,
and he's...
It's not that big.
Like, no! It's through the mouth.
So they enter the mouth.
At this point, the Doctor has symbolically been bored by himself.
No!
Yeah, that's true.
I had only 2 more notes for this episode. One of them was the Doctor was symbolically boring himself. And another note that just says, that gun has balls.
It does! Because to wrap up that scene, they see a shadow. And they don't know what it is. But yeah, the tribesmen are being attacked by the Phantoms, and they have this laser gun thing. Which, worst fucking effect in this entire serial. The laser gun. It's just like red sound wave looking things.
Yeah, it's just like a red overlay.
It's so cheesy and awful, and I hate it. It's the worst effect. But the guns have 2 little tiny white balls on the top of it.
They could, like, if they had pupils, would look like Muppet eyes. But they don't. So they're testicles.
That's all eyes are. They're just testicles with pupils.
The eyes are the testicles of the face.
Toni is zoned out.
I don't know what to do with this.
Why do you think they call them eyeballs?
Sometimes you're not prepared to hear the truth.
So, okay, that effect is terrible. The little red thing.
All I hear is static. No, nothing. Don't worry about it, Joseph. It's fine. I was making...
I got it.
What?
Joe's like fussing with the headphones.
No, Joe, we're cool people who have listened to the Adventure Zone.
Oh, fuck you guys. So there's a terrible special effect happening. But that's terrible, but it causes another special effect to happen that is really cool that I actually didn't notice until the recap. Because I was too busy being like, that effect looks like shit. But they're shooting the Phantom, and the Phantom glows, and it's the Doctor's face.
It's his head.
Giant glowing face.
Of evil.
And it just like, there's a scream.
It
Yeah.
screams.
It's awful.
It's so unsettling because it's 100% not what you're expecting to see.
So that's the end of episode 2. We are now into episode 3, which I have called Deep Throat.
Wow.
Oh, man.
You two are just the worst.
Okay, but also, my first note for episode 3 is the inside of the Doctor's head is so vaginal.
I wish you guys could see Toni. This is a good reason to become a Patreon patron at the $10 level, so you can see the uncut video of the podcast records and see Toni's complete annoyance and giving up on life at our dumb remarks.
Okay, but it does, though. There's a bit later where it's just like people are standing at the mouth of this cave at the other end, and it's just like it's there.
Why are you looking at me like expectantly? What do you want me to...
I want to hear your thoughts.
It's just like a fucking Georgia O'Keeffe painting.
And that was kind of the plot of Deep Throat, right?
Not really.
No, that like her G-spot was in her throat.
Jesus, I didn't actually know what the plot of Deep Throat was. Even though it's entirely possible that we've talked about it before on the podcast.
I'm pretty sure that's the plot. Is like that's the only way she can have an orgasm is through blowing dudes.
Jesus. All right. I'm done now. I'm Toni now. Let's move on.
Would you like to join me over here in, like, the fucking grown-up table?
Listen, I'm being informative. Yes. That is a historical film that had a lot of relevance in our political landscape.
It really did.
It's true.
You know what it's not fucking relevant to? This episode of Doctor Who.
But the Doctor did eventually meet Richard Nixon.
That's true.
It all ties together.
I super forgot about that episode on purpose.
Thomas and Caleb get away from the Phantom. And they're going to be real quiet now. Shh, shh. So the Doctor and Leela see what's walking down the throat cave. And it looks like a spaceman. He's got like a little spacesuit on and everything.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor starts remembering things that, oh yeah, I have been here before. Whoops. Why did he forget?
It's just a lot of memories. Like, what were you doing like 4 years ago?
Question though, when did he do it?
I imagine, because
he has to be 4.
This kind of implies that, like, he's been traveling alone for a while. And,
like, the time between the Deadly Assassin and now is probably a lot.
Like, long enough that he's like, I don't remember being here.
If I didn't know any better, it was like they put a spot for Big Finish. Which, by the way, this serial, though it's the 4th serial of the season, was kind of promoted as like a season opener. Because it had been off the air for like 6 weeks. Or there hadn't been a new episode for 6 weeks.
Okay.
I think they played like a couple of omnibus versions of like Brain of Morbius and stuff like that. But it had The Deadly Assassin was like the last episode for like a good long while. So
that makes sense to me with like how this is written.
But yeah, he thought he was helping, and he's like, I guess I didn't help. I guess I made things
What's really great
worse.
to me about this is that he's like, I was like programming this computer and I forgot to like wipe my own imprint. And then he's like, or did I forget? And there's some joke about like, I don't remember if I forgot. But what he says is like, maybe it was just like my own ego of like, yeah, this'll be good. I'll leave him with my, like, personality imprint. So it's not just like, I made a mistake and how could I have known? It's literally like, shoot, my ego actually might have, like, fucked up this whole situation. Which is, like, a great realization for the Doctor to have.
Yeah, no, it's like, they've never done something like this. Like the fact, like, I've never seen this plot in Classic Who before this. Just kind of, like, really just taking stock for a second and think, like, oh, man, I really fucked up.
I'd say the closest we've had to something like this would probably be that one serial with Dodo, where like the first half is like a serial, and then the second half is like years later, and they come back and things have like completely gone topsy-turvy. The one with had the like, I think they're the monoids. They had the eyeball that they moved with their tongue. So that's a similar-ish situation, but not as on the nose and stuff.
And also, like, it feels, at this point, reckoning with the show itself more. What I think is interesting about this serial is the implications it has for other serials. The sort of implication at the end of every Doctor Who serial is, like, the Doctor left and he fixed things and then left and then everything was better. But, like, what do you think the odds are on, like, how many of these has he left behind?
Honestly, this serial itself sort of ends the same way. Like, maybe things aren't better because it ends with just people arguing.
He just kind of leaves again. I wonder, like, in my head, I think it's like a 2/3, 1/3 split. I think there's a bunch of worlds out there that just got kind of fucked, that just had their infrastructure, like, totally fucked. Because he just played it wrong one time.
Not to mention, a lot of the times he's doing stuff, it is like sort of revolutions or big power dynamic
When we think about,
switches.
one of the 3 Atlantises.
It completely drowns them.
They're definitely not better off.
Because I think that's interesting, because I've always had this sort of idea of the Doctor is, like, specifically an avatar not of goodness necessarily, but of change. Like, he's oftentimes, like, instigating revolutions and going on doing these things, but, like, he's not necessarily particularly concerned with seeing these things through. And, like, he's a good guy, but, like, a lot of the times in serials, he functions as the person who changes things, and it's sort of up to other people to make sure things are good. All he does is make things different.
Yeah, I mean, the way that this serial ends is basically them, like, trying to start, like, a new society and trying to come up with what that means. And he literally says, that's not my problem. I'm out. Like,
Right.
As far as he's concerned, he's like, he's changed everything. Now they're responsible for building whatever it is they're going to build. And he thinks, like, in his mind, that's not like, well, I don't need to see this through. In his mind, it's like, it's their responsibility. It's actually, like, worse if I stick around and try to shape it into, like, what I think it should be. It's better if they build something on their own.
It's sort of like what happens in Kill the Moon, where the Doctor just, like, leaves for a while. And then, like, Clara calls him out on it. Like, no, that was a dick move.
Yeah, I feel like the Doctor doesn't want to shape it, though, because then he's a god. And that's
right, then he's going around and shaping things, like, in his own image, and that's that gets into like a kind of gross territory.
No wonder this serial was almost called The Prime Directive, because that's just the Star Trek thing. You'll know when you do the Watch-A-Thon of Con.
Yeah. What is this Star Trek? I don't know anything about it.
I mean, I legit know very little.
There's a guy named Spork.
He is an alien who comes from two worlds. Like, a world of spoons and a world of forks. His father was a spoon, his mother was a fork.
I believe he was played by Robin Williams. Anyway, it's a spinoff of Happy Days. So, these people in spacesuits are the Tesh. Which I'm going to just tell you later on, we figure out that that's short for... Technician. The Doctor sees a wall that he can walk through, and they walk through it. Oh, that's really cute, too, because he walks through it, and Leela's like, what the hell? And he's like, just do it. Close your eyes. And she closes one eye. He's like, both of them. Then she does, and then she walks through the wall.
It's really adorable.
And then they are basically going to go to the ship. The Tesh ship, I guess. And then we, for the first time, see the sort of the heart of the ship where Zoannon sort of resides. And it's like, just like screens and a little orb in the center. All the voices sort of chatting at once. Saying like, they have returned, we are one, chanting.
I kind of want to talk about the Tesh for a minute, because we've talked a little bit about how, like, this serial has stuff to say about religion, and, like, you basically have these two tribes, and it's, like, the, like, active, like, brave, superstitious people, and then, like, you have, like, the Tesh who are supposed to be, like, the, like, logical, scientific ones, and we've had this dynamic before in Doctor Who. And, like, usually it's like, we like science, so the science people are great, and the superstitious people are, like, annoying. But in this one, as much as the serial, the story has stuff to say about, like, the dangers of religion, there's also, like, definitely some, like, criticism of science. Like, these people are just, like, a little bit too cold, and, like, the experiments and stuff that they're running are not great.
I think it's just saying that extremism either way is bad.
Yeah.
But although at the same time, it's worth pointing out that the technicians are still religious. They still, like, sort of believe in Zoannon, and they're just going about it in a more sort of scientific way. It's all also part of what they figure is, like, God's plan or whatever.
That's true. That's true.
Because I do think this serial does come down pretty definitively on how it feels about religion. It's not a fan.
But yeah, then the Tesh fully do show up, because the Doctor and Leela are sort of in this control room, sort of discussing plot stuff that we've already kind of gone over, and then the Tesh show up, and they mentally, like, shut down Leela. They have mental powers, and
the Doctor is pissed.
How would you describe them? They're like greenish, grayish skin.
They're like, yeah, they've got green, gray skin, and they got, like, you know, some
they look like
fancy
they belong
religious robes.
They look like they belong on a deck of cards.
Oh, yeah! That's a very good description.
But their visages are sort of corpse-like.
I mean, they don't have, like, any sort of, like,
they're like
special makeup stuff. It's basically just painted skin.
If you had, like, a alien zombie deck of cards.
Yeah.
That's what these guys look like.
We're not to it yet, but I want to go ahead and talk about it. They have the most ridiculous sort of hand wave. They do this bow.
You have to, like, put your hands up in the air and then touch your toes. And that's, like, the most exhausting thing to, like, greet people. They're out there doing that, like, several times a day.
When they come in, when they leave.
One time they, like, left, and then he was like, hey, wait a minute, remember to do this. And then they had to do it again.
Remember, I said no onions.
These guys have to be, like, super fucking limber. That's all I'm saying.
I think they have a lot of nervous energy. At one point, one of the Tesh says that in order to, like, perfect their logic in science or whatever, they deny the flesh. So I think they have a lot of displaced kind of energy. Which is great, because that's another thing that's the Doctor's fault. The Doctor has cock-blocked all of these people.
Thus they developed Vor. My next note just says an experiment in eugenics. Because what are they doing? What?
Basically what happened is the computer, which we haven't, like, really said, but, like, we have figured it out at this point, I think, yes?
Zoannon is the computer.
Computer. And the Doctor has imprinted the computer with his, like, personality. Only at the same time, the computer had, like, just become sentient. It was developing its own personality, and then it had this other personality imprinted on it, and that, like, broke it. That, like, broke its brain and made it, he says schizophrenic.
Which is wrong, but...
Yes. Yeah, it's more like, DID.
Well, it's the 70s, so...
Yeah, like, basically this computer's, like, emergent personality fractures. And then, like, in addition, there's, like, just, like, the doctor is also there.
Yeah, and also it's like it can't handle all of these personalities in one thing. It's so contradictory and stuff.
Yes, like it never had a chance to like develop its own identity, really. Which is like a fucking amazing concept, by the way. Not to just like barrel right past that. This is a fascinating part of the serial. But like what the computer has been doing is like it has been sort of like shaping and creating these two tribes. And then, like, getting, like, the biggest and, like, the best of them. I'm not sure why exactly. Just for something to do, I guess.
But, yeah, there's definitely, like, again, an experiment in eugenics, like, trying to get the most perfect, like, physical specimens and the most perfect mental specimens and kind of, like, making some sort of perfect person or whatever.
So, like, that is why that these two tribes have, like, developed the way that they are. Like, the computer has very specifically been like manipulating and experimenting with them, and the Tesh seem to be like aware of this part of the plan, whereas the other people do not.
And the doctor tries to have a conversation with the Tesh, but just gets a lot of just religious mumbo jumbo stuff too. So he can't have like a how do we fix this problem sort of conversation because they're just like
they're
all
just talking
caught
nonsense.
up in the ritual and the mythology of the whole thing. Leela is cuffed to a table. And we get that classic Doctor Who staple of the countdown.
Mm-hmm. It starts at like 300.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that and was thinking Joe is going to be so pissed.
Hate countdowns, man.
Especially these super long ones that start an absurd number.
And this is the point where the Doctor's like, okay, you've got this whole like religious thing going on. Do you have like a most holy of holies? Do you have like a room that's sacred that no one can go into?
I like this conversation too because like the Doctor has come up with this plan and the guy's like, yeah, it's all pretty sacred. And he's like, no! There's one that no one's allowed into. And he's like, oh, yeah, there is.
You mean Sector 7G or whatever. But then the Doctor sees Leela on the monitor and is informed that she's going to be, that they're going to do basically experiments on her by reducing her to atoms.
So that they could sort through them.
The
I mean, I
Doctor's
don't
not
want to
super
tell
happy with
other
that.
people how to do a science, but that does not seem like the best way to go about that.
I don't know. The Doctor sort of gets like upset about this. And then the Tesh sort of completely turn on the Doctor because of it.
Yeah, they're like, well, she's a savage. It's not really important. And the Doctor's like, that's not a good enough reason, is what he says. And like this guy freaks out and he's like, you're not the Lord of Time. That's what they've been calling him. You're not him. You're fake. And yeah, they totally turn on him.
The real Lord of Time would love turning people into atoms.
But the Doctor's going to go rush to save Leela, but the Tesh mind smacks him, and he passes out, and then wakes up handcuffed to the table with Leela. Now, this is the most convenient thing.
I like totally had no problem with this.
His hands are cuffed above his head, and for some reason, he has a mirror in his hand.
He did it before.
How did he know?
First of all, the Doctor's pockets are full of crap. That's canon.
Okay, but he passed out with the mirror, presumably in his hand.
Did he pass out, Joseph, or did he pass out?
They mind smacked him.
He's the Time Lord. They got all sorts of psychic shit. I'm telling you, I am fine with this.
Yeah, okay, but like they're moving him to the table. They don't go, what the hell's in his hand? Let's take it out.
No, they're dumb.
They're smart, but they're dumb.
Second thing, they're handcuffed. They're in this very specific position, and there's this laser that's going to shoot down at them. It could go left or right. It could go to Leela first. We don't know. It's directly in between the two of them.
I mean, yeah, he says, like, yeah, we just lucked out.
And why?
He says that.
Okay, but here's the thing. Why is the laser not going straight down the middle? Why does it go to his hand?
I mean, that's a good question. Like, you got me there.
The laser hits the mirror and goes back into the machine and blows it up. But that was very, very convenient. That was way more convenient than the antitoxin thing.
All right.
I'm wondering if this is a case of the script calling for a much more, like, specific and possibly, like, time-consuming or budget-consuming thing that they couldn't do. Sort of like the literal cliffhanger and Dragonfire that you're going to get 2 years from now.
Especially with, like, how well-written the rest of the script, like, clearly is. That wouldn't surprise me.
And not only, though, does it, like, destroy the machine, it opens their cuffs for no reason.
Sure.
When you turn it off, it opens the cuffs.
Obviously.
Otherwise, people would be stuck in the cuffs.
But they get out. The leader of the Tesh gets told that they've escaped, and he orders that they be chased down and killed. And that's when we get to see the fun bows for the first time. Tony's like, why do they do that? And I'm like, they gotta be dramatic as hell. Then the very next shot is just the leader calmly walking to like a table. And then he just very quickly goes, "Ah!" and slams his fist on the table. Very dramatically. And Tony's like, yeah, all right.
Fair enough, fair enough.
The Doctor and Leela are sneaking around. Oh, and the hallways are gorgeous. I love these hallways. They're very reflective.
They're like white, and they've got like these kind of like patterns.
One of the things that's like great about the hallways is that it does a good job of making the ship, or like the thing that they're in, feel very large. Because there are different like defined areas that look very different from each other, as opposed to like sometimes when you're in a ship and there's like 4 rooms and they all kind of look the same. Like this definitely feels like it. I feel like that hallway goes a long way to make this place feel very large, and it also is like a good place for some laser tag.
Doctor and Leela go into one of the communication rooms, and there's this great line where they go in, the Doctor's messing with buttons, and he tells Leela, "Shut the door," and then she just like looks around and goes, "How?" Because it's like one of those like Star Trek slidey doors. He sees the Seva team on one of the monitors, and he calls in to Neva, who's just sitting there in his trance.
Totally broken.
The Doctor's like, "Hey, I'm, your god. Tell everybody to go into the idol." He's like, "Tell them to go into the mouth of the idol. You can fight the Tesh here or whatever. And get Caleb to do it." Neva's basically like, "But Caleb doesn't believe in you or whatever. How will I get him to do that?" And he's like, "Tell him." And then he says this thing that Caleb said way earlier about not believing in ghosts. Because that was like his little saying of like, "I don't believe in this bullshit either." So the Doctor tells him to tell Caleb, "I don't believe in ghosts either," as a way of saying that this is a message from the Doctor, not really from the god. And then Neva's like, "Will do, Doctor." I thought that was good.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And then the Doctor kind of just says like, "I underestimated that man."
Yeah, because this is the start really of transitioning.
Neva's little arc here.
Yeah.
And which is, again, like, this character in most Doctor Who serials does not get that beat. Or maybe they get that beat and they die right away or something. Or, like, like, they exist to be the villain and, like, crazy. But no, like, this is, like, he gets this moment and it's this really cool moment and he gets to go on to do more stuff. And it's just it's another instance of this serial playing with your expectations and then doing more with them.
So the Doctor and Leela are making their way to the heart of the secret place. There's a guard there, though, so they have to do a little bit of tomfoolery to literally tomfoolery to get the guard away, which Leela uses the Doctor's hat. Here's the thing, I thought the plan was, and I'm pretty sure this is actually what the plan was supposed to be because of the way the Doctor reacts afterwards. Leela uses the hat to distract the guard. The guard comes towards the hat. I think the Doctor was supposed to sneak up behind him and take him out, but the guard just
like,
gets
nah,
to Leela.
I got it.
Yeah, and Leela just like flips him over her shoulder, and the Doctor just sort of shows up and is like, "Oh."
Well, that worked.
So he asks Leela to stand guard as he goes into the secret place. And that's when he talks to the computer. And I think this is where we fully learn everything.
I broke down a little bit ago.
Yeah, about the Doctor and his personality and all that stuff. And the computer is asking, "Who are you?" And he says, "Yeah, I am. I am who." This is sort of intercut with Leela having a laser tag game in the hallway. Existential dread intercut with laser tag, as Tony said while we were watching it.
The computer starts to like freak out, like seeing the Doctor outside of itself like is like forcing it to like it's like making it question like fundamental things about itself, and it's just freaking the fuck out.
Again, like meanwhile laser tag is happening, and earlier in the serial they set up that the laser guns have like they need to recharge if you overuse them. So like part of the cliffhanger is Leela's like battery is run out on her gun while people are tagging her.
And
the computer has like this fucking face and it's just shouting, who am I?
And also it like one of them's a kid.
It's got Tom Baker's face on a screen and it sounds like a child.
It was a child.
Exactly, because it was a child and it's harming like, and the like Tom Baker is on the ground like because it's like harming, it's hurting his brain or just the noise or something. So he's like like curled up with like his hands on his ears on the floor, and his own face is screaming with a child's voice, "Who am I?" And it's just the most unsettling, creepy, weird as fuck thing I've ever seen.
It gave me a very specific emotion, and I think that specific emotion is dread.
That's the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
It's a good cliffhanger.
It's a really good cliffhanger.
It's the end of episode 3. We're now into episode 4, which I've called I Am Who.
All right.
Then I guess because like the computer is freaking out so much, the power just starts going off. The Tesh sort of freak the fuck out and leave Leela alone and are like running away. And some of them are just giving up because they're like, this means the end of the world.
Yeah, like apparently this is what happened. I guess like the first time they crashed there or something.
I think when the computer first kind of was gaining sentience, like it did this. And also one of the things that happens when it's like going into like emergency mode or something. And one of the things that happens is that like the walls get electrified for some reason.
The doctor at one point even says, why not the floors? And that's a good question that never gets answered. But yeah, but the guy's saying this is the end of the world or whatever, and Leela's like, I don't care for this bullshit. And then she goes into the chamber and shoots the screens, because she gets a gun from one of the other guards that's full up of lasers, and shoots the screens and drags the doctor out of there. Again, saving the doctor. And then that's when the doctor's like, I'm a threat to the computer's world because I contradict it. One of the Tesh that was the guard that was on the floor gets up. They wrestle, and the Tesh gets thrown into the wall, and that's when we get to see the electricity effect actually happen.
It's okay.
Yeah, he just glows blue, and then goes, falls down. There's a scene between Thomas and Neva where they're looking out of the idol, and they see gates. I don't remember what the gates are to.
Well, it's the ship, isn't it? But the thing is that like the ship in their mythology has like a holy significance. It's like a holy tower or something.
Tower of Emello.
Perhaps. And so Neva's like, no, look, it's there, though. Like, this is actually, like, wow, this is it. This is the thing.
Like, we're getting confirmation of our religion now that we, like, no longer believe in it. And Neva has, like, this badass line where he's like, what does he say? What does he say?
Or is it Neva that says it? Or is it the other guy?
It's Thomas.
Oh, I thought it was Neva.
No, because that's the thing, is Neva's, like, pointing it out to him, like, no, that's the tower. It's like, this is proof. Like, don't you believe now? And then Thomas says, with proof, you don't have to believe. Which, again, this serial has an opinion about religion.
Yeah, Neva feels betrayed at this point, and it's going to do something.
I mean, like, drastic. Neva basically is like, well, his god has kind of betrayed him, and also isn't real, and, like, he's like, I'm going to kill him.
Tony, in my notes, is just God lied.
God lied.
Someone listens to Rassilon and Adventure Zone and is having a good time.
Guess what? It ain't me.
Joe doesn't listen to Rassilon.
I don't. Actually, Tony doesn't.
I do not.
The computer actually starts reaching out and kind of controlling people too. Hypnotizing people, really. Including Leela, who tries to kill the doctor. Starts shooting the laser gun at him.
Like a good companion. No.
This is also a moment where, like, because a lot of them get hypnotized and start chanting. And, like, she's, like, chanting, but she's just mouthing it.
Oh, it's so unsettling.
Yeah, for some reason, that's way creepier.
I don't even remember what they're saying, but yeah, it's so creepy.
They're saying, like, destroy and be free.
Yes, destroy and be free.
But the doctor hides from the gun blast and then says, hey, your gun is heavy. It's getting really heavy. And then she, like, starts to drop it. And then he basically dehypnotizes her by, like, I'm going to count back from 5, and when I do, you'll be fine. And it works. And she is dehypnotized. There's a lot of hypnotizing people to kill people in Doctor Who. It's
possible if you believe.
Then the leader of the Tesh is informed that they are being attacked by the Sevatim. But the guy that's telling the leader of the Tesh is super panicked about it. The leader of the Tesh will not stand for this and is like, listen, you gotta be calm. We don't have emotions.
That's our whole shtick. We're calm and rational.
And if you don't do it that way, then we'll deal with you. And then the guy's like, you're right. And then just immediately calms down and very calmly and without emotion restates everything that he just said. And that was, like, unsettling to me. It was very disturbing. Did not like it. Ugh, it made me uncomfortable.
What do you think we've said more? Unsettling but we'll get there?
I think we'll figure out by the end of the podcast, but we'll get there.
It's going to be unsettling.
Which is happening more? One of those things or Toni just being annoyed at us?
I mean, that's happening right now and nothing's even going on.
That's a constant.
Yeah, that's just a baseline.
That's her secret. She's always annoyed.
But the leader has a plan, so it'll all be good. There's some line, I don't remember who says it. Someone says, wouldn't that be an unfair advantage? Or would you want an unfair advantage?
And Leela says, yes.
Yes.
There's a line, I don't know if we've gotten to it yet, where it's a very famous quote, a Doctor Who quote. I'm blanking on the context. Where, the doctor says something about, that there's something, very common, between, is it, the very dumb and the very powerful or whatever, which is they don't alter their views to fit the facts, they alter the facts to fit their views. Which, I don't know if you remember, but, for some reason, well, I know why, but, the first time the phrase alternative facts was, being popularized by Kellyanne Conway and that, someone found that clip and it was suddenly everywhere. It was man, Doctor Who had a thing to say about this back in the 70s. Which is it's a good quote, but calm down. People were sharing it like it was the first 5 minutes of the newsroom.
That's actually been something that's been happening to me a lot. Just things being weirdly relevant of I've been reading older stuff. And specifically since our president is now, was somebody that was pop culturally, he's been around pop culturally for a while. So it's weird, reading old webcomics and stuff like that. And then he pops up, but in a kind of different context. It's been kind of bizarre for me. I don't know. Because you don't get that a lot with other presidents.
Other presidents aren't always big pop cultural figures years or decades before their presidency.
I wonder if there was a similar sort of thing going on with I don't know, Reagan or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say Reagan. There's a little bit for Reagan. I mean, we talked about Airplane, but they kind of make that joke. Yeah, well, there's that line in Airplane. It's I haven't been that sick since I saw that Ronald Reagan film.
It's just so bizarre. Anyway, Doctor Who. Doctor goes to the control room and starts turning stuff back on. Leela thinks it's pretty. And he's worried because there's some atomic thing that is on overload. Basically, the computer's gonna explode everything.
There's also a nice moment here where Leela's talking about what the machine is called in the religion. And the doctor's yeah, but what do you think it is? And she's whatever you said, an atomic stabilizer thing. And the doctor's good. And, it's just a nice moment between the two of them where, she's very firmly oh, yeah, I'm really outside of this religion thing. And, I'm learning the scientific truth of all this stuff.
Going forward with Leela sort of kind of has a similar dynamic with the Doctor that Jamie did. They come from a much more sort of primitive culture, so it's, a lot about, learning, this is what science is. And why can't I stab it? Yeah, this is kind of the start of that.
So basically they got 20-ish minutes to erase the personality from the computer or things are going to explode. Oh, so we get this thing that I thought was really interesting. The Tesh are setting up a trap, which is a really interesting trap that has been set up, but they don't actually get to use it. And it kind of bummed me out.
Yeah, it is kind of. I mean, I suppose it's good that those people didn't die, but they're not real people. So it's a story. So it's kind of disappointing that we don't get to see the trap.
What the trap is they have a larger version of the laser gun.
Well, the thing that I like about the larger version of the laser gun is instead of having 2 balls, it has 4 because it's larger.
It's basically mounted to the floor. It has 2 balls on top and 2 on the side.
Yeah.
And they're gonna basically pull up in this corner and project a fake wall so that they can just shoot the 17 when they come up and they won't see them because the fake wall will be there. And they had already set up the fake wall previously, so I was that's a really neat idea. But then the computer immediately sort of takes over them, and that's when they're destroy and be free, and then sort of walk off.
And they sort of show up, and they're this is a trap, right? And they're yeah, obviously, only nothing's happening.
But then they also start going destroy and be free as well.
Yeah.
And then Leela does the same thing. Because the Doctor's face appears on the wall and is attempting to control Leela. And it works. That's the scene where she starts doing it silently. And then she's raises her knife and is going to stab the Doctor. But he moves at the last second and she stabs the computer.
And that presumably electrocutes her.
Yeah, because she passes out. And the doctor gets caught by the Tesh and the Seva team. And things seem bad. Everything is...
It's not great.
It's not great. But Neva, during all this, has... Well, they found that trap, right? But then they all started going, destroy and be free or whatever. Except for Neva. And Neva takes the gun, the gun mounted to the floor, and, like, rushes up, sees the glowing doctor on the wall, and just shoots it all to hell with the big laser gun.
Yeah.
He basically disappears. Neva does. Like, the feedback or whatever makes him go poof.
Yeah, he's gone.
But this causes the Seva team and the Tesh to sort of, like, fritz for a little second, and the doctor rushes and puts this helmet on that's connected to the control room and to the computer and erases his personality from the computer. And we see the glowing doctor face going, no! And he fades away. It doesn't actually fade away, it goes backwards.
I will say the pacing of this last episode is a little weird. And like it's a messier episode. I'm wondering if like maybe at one point like they did do something with that trap or something and then stuff got rewritten or whatever, because yeah, it's a bit messier. Yeah, it's a bit rushed, it's a bit messier. It's rushed, but then there's a long kind of denouement.
Maybe also, you know, it was rewritten like 3 times, so probably stuff got like shuffled around and shortened. But everybody sort of returns to their senses. The doctor passes out, though, because he was all hooked up to the computer and everything. And am I right? He wakes up 2 days later?
Yes.
2 days later.
And Leela's just sort of like hanging around him eating chocolate. Oh, this is actually where the scene that I was talking about happens. Where the doctor refers to some specific piece of equipment and she gives it like its scientific name. But the doctor asks for a piece of chocolate and she like pouts a little bit before giving it to him. Like, I was gonna eat that.
But also he's been informed that Zoannon has been silent since the whole incident happened, since he's been passed out. But they're gonna go see it. Leela wants to come too, and this time the doctor's gonna let her. Because before he was like, you have to stay outside. And
before it was dangerous. Now he's like, he's probably calmed down a little bit.
But they go in there and Zoannon is a lot more calm and welcoming. And Leela asks why it did what it did, why it did this whole thing. And the computer's basically like, I made my madness a reality. So I was having this weird split. And that's what the Seva team and the Tesh were. It was like representative of all of these personalities in my head, basically. And I think that's maybe why he was having them sort of fight each other to see who was dominant. So he could get rid of whichever one that was bad,
sense.
You know? Like, whichever one he thought was strongest would be the one that would stay in his computer core. My next note just says, Doctor thinks his mistakes are unique.
Yeah, because the machine is like, the doctor apologizes, and he's like, don't worry about it. It's like, anyone could have made that mistake. And the doctor's like, what?
Well, not anyone.
And the computer laughs.
It chuckles heartily.
And then makes him a couch that they can hang out on. Also, I like that Leela sits on the couch and is like, it looks like she doesn't know what a couch is.
Which, why would she?
And so she, like, sits on it sort of cross-legged, but, like, unsure.
To be fair, God gave it to her, and God was, like, evil really recently.
That's true.
I don't trust this couch.
Yeah, this is kind of, we've just switched from Old Testament God to New Testament God.
You think that's what happened?
Yeah, all wrath and vengeance, and now he's all like,
here's a couch.
Take a load off. Then we see the Tesh and the Seva team just like bickering with each other, like trying to figure out about their future. And the doctor comes in trying to calm them down. Also has this button that's going to destruct Zoannon. He's like, Zoannon gave me this. You press the button and he blows up.
Because basically, like, I mean, they're trying to figure out why not to do that. Because, like, the doctor's like, he's not evil anymore. And they're like, sure.
But none of them want to take the button that destructs him. So he's like, cool, test passed, and the thing, like, disappears. But then they continue to bicker and, like, trying to figure out who's going to be the leader. Is it going to be the Seva team, or is it going to be the Tesh, basically? And they're like, it shouldn't be either of you two guys. Well, the leaders of the Seva team are dead. The Tesh still has their guy. But Thomas nominates Leela, and then Leela's like, I can't do it. I'm far too unreasonable.
Which is a fantastic. I really liked that scene. It's a good line, and I immediately trust her a whole lot more.
And then she's like, "Doctor, what do you think?" And then looks around, and the doctor is gone because he does that. He fucking Batman's out of there. But she chases him down, asks to go with him, and the doctor says, "No."
Yeah, at some point he does say, though, like, that's not my problem. Like, in my notes, I'd just have written, have you learned nothing? He has learned not a goddamn thing.
But yeah, she wants to go with, and he doesn't want her to go with him.
So she just jumps right in there.
Yeah, she just, like, runs in.
And then presumably presses something, and he's like, don't touch that! And the TARDIS fades away.
Yeah. There's a bit before that, when they have their little scene, though, that has a great little exchange, where, like, the Doctor says something, and Leela's like, I suppose you're always right. And he says, invariably. At the end of having been so wrong. He's so wrong in the entire serial.
Not in his eyes.
He was in his mouth, though. Ah, that's Face of Evil.
That's the end of this episode. That's the end of the serial. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back for final thoughts.
Why should I listen to the Nerd Bliss podcast?
Because we go there.
Where?
Everywhere.
Human sexuality.
They don't care what's in your pants. They love you anyway.
Time travelers.
The problem is time will back with you.
Politics and fandom.
What Star Wars has been prior to Disney. It is a white male-driven universe.
Find us at nerdblisspodcast.com.
And on social media at NerdBlissPod, part of this complete breakfast and the ESO network.
The Nerd Bliss Podcast.
Listen!
And we're back!
Hey, Joseph, I have a question for you.
What?
Why do you look so worried?
I just am.
Why do you look concerned?
Because I know you and your shenanigans.
I'm just curious if you are possibly aware of what time it currently is.
I'm aware.
Okay, good. Just checking.
Do you know what time it is?
No.
You know, that's what's important.
Do you know what time it is, Chris?
It's 7:15.
Your face.
I'm just gonna sit here and eat my apple pie Oreo until one of you fuckers tells me what time it is.
I mean, he literally just told you.
You know what time I'm looking for.
On one hand, I love letting him sit and stew, but also we're just getting a lot of, like, eating sounds, and that's bad audio. Unless we want to really lead into, like, an ASMR thing.
This is the podcast for fetishes.
Yeah, Chris, we can just start an ASMR podcast right here.
This podcast is very orally fixated.
I mean, I figured you would cut out all the Oreo eating sounds. That's why I'm eating them.
No.
Oh, shit.
They're in now. We talked about it too much.
Alright, it's time for final thoughts.
I mean, that's what I say. Why would you say that?
Why would you take that away from her?
Why would you do that? That's my thing!
She's your wife!
I can't believe this right now!
This is why you get divorced.
Just, alright, then you say it. Go. Do your thing. What time is it, Tony?
I think it's like 7...
No, not that thing.
Oh.
What time is it in the podcast?
It's time for Final Thoughts!
Yay!
Final thoughts!
I've tipped my hand. I love this serial a lot. I think I watched this serial for the first time, like, in 2013 and kind of the lead up to New Who. Or not to New Who, to the anniversary. I feel like this is a serial that doesn't quite have the reputation that I think it deserves. Because I think I just kind of skipped it because, like, it's got kind of a generic name. And I've heard some other people say this too. Just the ones around it are more famous. Like Deadly Assassin and Robots of Death tend to be, like, more celebrated serials. And, like, those are both really good. But I think, like, this one is doing, frankly, I think a smarter thing than either of them is doing. The uniqueness and, like, the sort of willingness to kind of, like, really dig into, like, the Doctor's faults as a character and kind of deconstruct the thing that they do on this show and just sort of, like kind of question, because, again, the implications of this are sort of staggering for, like, the show going forward, and they don't really touch on it that much, but, like, just the fact that it's there, the fact that sometimes he goes to places and makes things worse, and just kind of, I think, casts the Doctor in a new light. And again, it's sort of interesting to, like have a serial where, like, the Doctor's just wrong all the time. Like, because he's sort of our guide. He's the one who is there to know things. And, like, he kind of gets off on knowing things all the time. So to watch him just, like, fall on his face a bunch of times is really great. That's such a good idea. And, like, compounded with all the stuff, like, it has all these ideas about religion that it wants to talk about. And, like Tony talked about how the idea of, like, the computer that has, like, the Doctor's personality imprinted on it as it's gaining sentience and, like, has this conflict is just so fascinating. Like, everything about the serial is just fascinating. It's all really smart, it's really witty, and on top of that, it introduces a really great and underrated companion in a very well done way. So big fan of this serial.
Shit, yeah, we're done here. What? I don't have anything to add. Like,
yeah, that pretty much summed up my thoughts. It's well written. It's incredibly hilarious. Like, the dialogue is so quotable and witty. Yeah, and Leela is great. I'm already, like, super down for Leela.
yeah, how long do we have her for? Do you have any sense of that?
No idea. I don't want to know.
Yeah, we've really gotten into this, like, this era where it's like, I don't know. I don't know how, like, I don't know if she's around for, like, a little bit.
I know she'll be around less than Sarah Jane.
And once she's gone, I don't know who comes after her.
Me either.
I do.
I like this dynamic, having somebody from the past, especially somebody who's just going to roll with it. Like, that's something I really enjoyed with Jamie. Like, Jamie's like, what's that big metal bird? And the doctor would be like, it's a plane. And he's like, great, can I fight it? You don't ever feel like you're over-explaining things to him because he's just so quick to be like, okay.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, that's kind of Leela's thing, but just in a smaller dress than Jamie had.
But yeah, I like this episode a lot. I'm excited because the next serial is written by the same guy. So, and I like this writing, so.
Yeah.
He wrote 3 serials. He wrote these 2 that are both, like, classics. Oh, the one from the next season that's not quite as classic.
I think it says a lot about the era that we're in right now. That I feel like the last, 5 episodes, we've been like, shit, this is really good. This is one of the best ones so far. Like, every fucking time that has been Final Thoughts, because that's just the era of the show that we're in right now.
Yeah, it's just, a lot of hitting home. Also, again, like, Toni, I'm not going to say too much about the next serial, but the outfits.
She's already super down for it because there's robots in the title.
Right, I'm pretty excited.
There's robots. The robot designs are good too, but there are some outfits next week. That is all I'll say. That is all I will tease for the future, is that you're about to come up on some outfits.
Chris, you got anything you want to plug?
At this point in time, we still don't know exactly when we're putting out season 2 of Salmon Powder Depressed, but that is coming.
I want to know. I want to watch it.
That is coming, as is a sort of podcast that we're going to be doing that will kind of lead up to it, sort of like the Good Place podcast did. That's really fun. There's that. Season 1 of Salmon Powder Depressed is on YouTube and on Sika at sika.tv/salmonpat, or you can just search it on YouTube, or you can find it on my website, thechrischerry.com, which also has, again, all of the other stuff. Joe, do we know anything at this point about Road Trippy in terms of release?
I think it was going to be sometime this year, but I think it's been pushed back because Wright needs to finish his other Kickstarter first.
This is fair. But in the future, Road Trippy is coming out. We've talked about Road Trippy. Yeah, one of the things that we did on our fun trip, besides seeing castles, was doing another reading of the script version of Road Trippy, and that was a blast.
Road Trippy is so good. It is such a good book.
I have a copy of it on my desk right now, and I'm looking at it, and it's making me happy.
Aww.
When we read it at the event, I know there were like a couple of people who they straight up brought like a movie script. How many pages is that?
It's 118 pages.
It's 118 pages. Like, we brought it to like a group of our friends, like, hey, do you guys want to read it? And everybody was like, sure. But like, by the end of it, you could tell like people were like really into it, and it was like, I don't know, it was awesome.
So yeah, that's coming. And I think that's it for me.
And if you liked this episode, you can check out more on watch-a-rassilon.com. And be sure to rate and comment on our iTunes. It helps us out and gets us up on the iTunes charts via iTunes magic.
It helps us be seen by more people. So the more reviews we get, the more that, like, the higher we get in the search results kind of thing, more people can find us. And that is really cool.
And this is a good time to start, because Doctor Who is about to come back.
Yes.
So this is a good time to tell your friends about the show. Like, hey, I think there's about to be a conversation about Doctor Who again.
And we'll probably be giving at least a brief, review of our thoughts on the new episodes as they air.
I can't imagine. This is going to be the first time we're doing the show where we're also, caught up and, new stuff is airing. I can't imagine that there's not going to be, a little bit of new Who talk at the top of a new episode.
But if you'd like to help us out even more, you can go to watchyourassilon.com/support. And there you will find a link to our Patreon page, which you can get to just by going to patreon.com/watchathon. And there you can donate a monthly amount to get all kinds of rewards, like day early episodes, bonus podcasts, uncut video of the podcast records, and live streams, where we get to watch the episodes with you guys and chit-chat during it. It's really
those
fun.
have been very fun.
Usually Chris is there with us. He wasn't there for this one because he had work or some shit. Boring.
Yeah.
Loser.
I know.
Also on our support page is a link to our Amazon wish list where you can sponsor an episode of the podcast by purchasing the corresponding serial on DVD for us. We'll mention you in the podcast and put your name on our Friends of Rassilon page. Speaking of, special thanks again to Matt Golden for sponsoring this episode.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
You can follow him on Tumblr at mgoldentumbles.tumblr.com. And I also want to give a shout out to Vincent E.L. for doing our really cool theme song.
Thanks, Vince. I'm sorry it took us so long to realize that we should be crediting you right here.
How many times do you think you're going to have to say that before you stop having to say it?
Me saying sorry?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just part of the pattern now.
It's like I have lines that I get during the long bit, and this is one of them now. I won't do it again, Chris, okay? This is the last time, I guess.
No, it's fine. I was just curious because it's man, I would be really apologetic too. So I get it.
I didn't do it the time last episode when Vince was the guest, so.
But you can check out Vince's stuff at swinglish.nu. And tune in next time when we talk about the Robots of Death with 2 returning guests, Ashley Rayburn, our Ice Warriors expert, and R. Alan Seiler.
Ooh, that'll be a fun one.
The director of Hulanta. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Outfits.
Until next time, keep calm and wrestle on.
Goodbye and I love you.
Outfits.
Oh my!
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.